I just shot about an hour's worth of theory, and then I realised that actually probably it was really advanced, and I get carried away with myself. I can't help it. I really enjoy theory, talking about modes and intervals, and what I really wanted to show you was how I go about writing riffs, the process in my mind, the code in the back of my brain when I'm sat down noodling and playing and things are just coming out. I'm going to cut into the lesson that I shot, and then at one point I'm going to cut out of it and I'm going to break it right back down to a simplified ball of knowledge that I can just shoot at you to make things a bit easier. But I want you to be exposed to what it was that I was doing, because I don't really agree with dumbing down tuition, especially on YouTube. There's a lot of really basic beginners tuition, and I think it's important to just give as much of it as possible out there so that people can have fun writing. It's totally possible to write without any theory at all. Loads of bands have evidenced that. But having the knowledge there, knowing it, is better for you, because then you can choose to ignore it if you want to, or you can fall upon it to help you in sticky situations when you really need to understand something that you've done. Cue the lesson that I just shot. Greetings! Hello, happy Halloween season, and welcome to a video all about how I write riffs. I get asked all the time, how did you come up with that riff? How did you write that riff? And it's never an easy question to answer, because for the most part, when I'm writing a riff, honestly, I'm jamming. And most of the code, the theory that sits behind me is subconsciously working and moving me around until I find something that fits with the vibe that I was feeling and I wanted to conjure and get out of me. And so what I need to do really is give you a couple of simple tools that will help you give you the keys to the Lamborghini and access. The keys to the Lamborghini is a quote from a classic 80s guitar tuition DVD with Michelangelo Batio. So I just quoted that because I'm from the 80s. I was born in 75. I lived through and survived the 80s. I actually really enjoyed them. I had fluorescent fluffy socks, the whole vibe. Anyway, I reckon you probably know Pentatonic Blues Scale number 1. And here are some tuning notes. By popular demand, I am tuned to standard tuning. I never tune to standard tuning. I'm always down a semitone and then I drop. Sometimes I'm down a whole tone and I drop. But for now, just because I'm teaching, I'm using a guitar with fret inlays and I'm tuned to standard. So that it's easy to see what we're doing. I've got a B cam here so that you can see the guitar nice and clear. Hopefully this will be a really useful video for you if you're just starting out writing your own stuff, and I really recommend that you do write your own stuff. There's nothing more exciting than going, look dude, I wrote this riff and it's cool, and then you play it and they go, oh my god, that's great, I've got a wicked bass thing that will go with it, and then eventually you get a song and then you play it to people and then you get and it's great. So let's look at this pentatonic scale. I reckon you probably know that scale, and if you don't, here it is one more time, really slow. Why am I showing you this scale? Why is it always this scale? It's always this scale because people tend to learn it first. Sometimes, in some cases, before they've learnt the major scale, which I find kind of amazing, really. And I'm teaching you this in the key of A. This is an A note here. up on the 5th fret E string, because it's the relative minor to C major. And a lot of the time when you start learning music theory, we begin in C major, because all of the notes of the key, all of the chords are like C, D, it's the alphabet, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So here's a C, and if I play the C major scale, once I get to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I'm on an A note. This is the 12th fret A string, so it's an A note, and the 6th degree of a major scale is what we call the relative minor. So if you keep playing the same notes as the C major scale but start from that 6th note, you're hearing it as sad, you're hearing a minor sound, but it's kind of magic. All that's really happening is your ear is remembering this first note and then measuring every other note to that to make you hear the sad sound of Aeolian, the natural minor. Because if I suddenly give you a C, it begins to sound happy again. Really, what you're going to learn as you go along, the notes don't really make you feel the thing as much as what they're being referred to. So if I keep going, and I play this one scale, you're going to feel major, happy. It's going to feel great. But if I played the 6th degree, it's going to feel completely different. It's going to feel like minor, kind of wicked, different, powerful, angry and sad. That's really what the modes are. Now, I hope you're just a tiny, like maybe 10% slightly more equipped to understand that. And so the reason I'm talking about a pentatonic is because it's the relative minor of C major. And when you start learning theory, you normally learn in the key of C, and that's the way it is for lots of other reasons that I won't go into now, because it's probably not why you're here watching this video. All about writing hard rock, progressive metal riffs. So in this scale, you could just play it like a scale. You could just go, and you could do that with a chugged A note underneath it. And that's fine. And a lot of bands have done that, and it's been really, really cool. But you could also, rather than playing individual notes, you could play chords where the notes are. So if we imagine all of the notes in this scale and then kind of piece them together, you'll find power chords inside it. So you got, I mean, you can do this. You've got a power chord from the very first note. That's great. Do you know position 2? You've also got a chord here. It's another power chord. Now you've got two power chords based off of this scale. Let's look at the third note that you play. And also you can use these notes here. Because, you see that? So, you've got a power chord here. Now you've got three chords, and we all know that with three chords you can write anything. As many a great band have shown us, Chili Peppers and Talking to You, and you too. What did I do there? I threw in a note that has no business being there at all. It's an outside note. This note here does not exist in this dojo. It is not a part of the scale. If I'd gone up a string and played that one, funnily enough, it's part of the blues scale, but not part of the pentatonic scale, this one. So I put in what we call an outside note. And that's great, because there are regulations and there are constructs and ideas and concepts, but there are no rules. If it makes you feel good, it's a good thing. That's why people like Frank Zappa exist, and all sorts of interesting composers and people that really wrote and wanted to write what they heard rather than go, okay, well, it has to be in this key or this scale. So if you haven't really got to grips with all of your theory, don't worry. It's really guidelines and things to measure things with and tools to explain what you've done to other musicians. So when I'm working with Rabia and I write a riff, I will then write that in my pants, in a flat in Malta, send it via my iPhone to him via iMessage. He gets it and he goes, "Oh, Rob's in his pants writing riffs again." And then he'll text back and say, what's the rhythm? What are you feeling? Is it 6? Is it in 5? How many? What's the bar looking like for rhythm? And he'll understand modally the scales and the intervals that I'm using because he understands theory. But if he didn't, I could say, well, I'm using this note, which is, an octave shape. I'm using this scale shape. I can list all of the bits it's made of when I know the theory. It makes it much easier to explain to someone else. I want you to learn something and I want you to memorize it. And I never want you to forget it. If you're really interested in writing music, I think this is such a valuable thing to learn. I want you to learn to count to 8, well, kind of to 7 really, pardon me. And I want you to memorize an order of sounds that we call the modes. So I want you to think that number 1, in this case C is number 1, is Ionian. We call it Ionian, or it's the major scale. 2 is Dorian. Dorian is a minor scale. 3 is Phrygian. Phrygian is a kind of minor scale. 4 is Lydian, and Lydian is a kind of major scale. 5 is Mixolydian, which is another kind of major scale. 6, as you know, and we've spoken about, is Aeolian, which is the minor scale. 7 is Locrian, which is the forbidden dark tome of evil. Or the minor flat 7/5, diminished, horrible, nasty mode. And then you're back to the octave of where you've originated from. Every scale that you play, every note is the home of one of these modes. And if you know where you're starting from, you'll know which each note you play, what it refers to modally. Now that was a confusing statement, but let me clarify it for you. If I'm playing on 6, Because I'm saying C major, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here is an A note. So I'm saying that's the 6th note of its parent major, C major. So C major's here. I'm calling that 1, and I'm saying 6 is A. What if 6 is A? What happens if I go up a tone? I get to 7. And what was 7? It was Locrian. It was the horrendous, evil, dark sounding. Now that means there's a set of rules that says that on that note I can play horrible minor 7 flat 5 diminished type stuff. Every note will be flat or minor. I mean, a short-handed power chord could be root, flat 5, flat 7, just for a quick little kind of triad vibe. Quite an Alice in Chains kind of feeling thing. And if I go up one more note, where am I? I'm at 8. I've gone 6, 7, 8. And 8 is the octave. And we were on C. It's major. So you can play a major chord. But it's a bit kind of, I don't know, overtly happy. I'd stick with a 5th, a 1 and a 5. So you're going to go... The 7 doesn't sound great. A lot of people don't use it. You can make it sound great. You can ignore some of the other notes inside it and just play notes that kind of harmonically sound nice to you. But many people would substitute it for something else. Let's take a look at a different note. So we've got 6, there's the 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if we are 6, 7, 8, 2, 3. Now I'm saying 4 is here, but that note doesn't exist in the pentatonic scale. You're probably wondering why. And the reason is that the pentatonic scale is a minor scale, well this one is a minor scale, and it's had a few notes taken away from it. So the full scale, the full minor scale is this. But we're not playing all of those notes. We're not playing, and we're not playing. We're just stripping them away and keeping the bass in. But it's important to know that they were originally there, because then you can think about them and use them if you want to. And when you're up here thinking this is a 6, I'm just playing a blues scale, but I know that this is rooted on 6 and therefore it's the natural minor mode. If I'm going down a string, you want to know where you are. You don't want to be blind to the theory of where you are. It's useful to have a mental reserve of knowledge that says, well, actually, if that's 6, that's 7, that's 1, this is 2. And the second mode is Dorian. Dorian is minor. And the one difference with the Dorian mode is it has a major 6th degree. Things will begin to click in place. They always do. It just takes time. I'm 42. I didn't fully understand this, as in actually really get it, until I was about 25. And even then, I still had a lot of learning to do. I still do. Everyone does. Okay, I'm cutting in here, because now it's getting mega deep, and I know that some of you are going to be thinking, oh, Rob, I don't want to delve much further. This isn't what I was watching this video for. So, the briefest of recaps to make things really understandable for you. The pentatonic scale is actually the Aeolian mode, the minor scale with a few notes taken away. And if you look at the notes, you can make chords from it. And from these chords, you can make riffs, licks, and ideas. So for example, that's a chord. That's a chord. That's a chord. And in fact, I can play the whole scale as triads or little tiny chords. And I can add notes in or take notes out, and I can go to the scales either side. So for example, if you know position 5, or if you know position 2, you can include those, they're the same notes, but you can include those areas for your chordal writing. So all I'm doing there is following the scale shape and placing chords. Now instead of playing chords, I could do riffs. So I could be thinking playing fifths and octaves. I could just go on forever doing that kind of thing. So when I set about to write a riff, or parts of a song, chords to a song, what I'm thinking about is where I am and what's around me. If I'm playing a chord, I am constantly aware of the mode I am inside of. Sometimes it might sound like I go off on a crazy rampage that makes no sense because you're not given the information to make it make sense. I haven't given you the bass notes, I haven't given you the root notes to the scale that I'm actually playing outside, so it might sound a bit strange. That's an important lesson. It's an important lesson to put your hand on the guitar and think, wait, what is this? Do you know what I mean? Otherwise, you're blindly flailing in a dark land with no particular mission or direction, and you will end up writing music that kind of sounds aimless unless you are incredibly gifted and able to steer that ship with your mind. I hope this has been in some way useful. Take it easy. Chappers out.